I'm Luke Beard.
I'm Chris Green.
I'm Riley Gunter.
And I'm Nash Rainey.
And we are the Backups. All right, let's kick into Week 0 college football. College football has returned. Not many close games, or a lot of close games, not many great games, though. We had a Notre Dame blowout of Navy. Not much to talk about there. Sam Hartman looked great. We expected that out of him. He gets an improving team around him, and that is obviously going to build up his resume. He's been in college for, 6 years now? He's a good quarterback. We know he's well-tenured, well-seasoned. He's 24. I'm expecting him to do big things in the NFL when he makes it there. We had Jacksonville State, UTEP. It was a close game. I didn't really watch much of that. I caught some of it, but we were a little busy. We were eating during that one, so we had some pieces of what we missed. The first quarter and a half probably.
Definitely, yeah.
But it wasn't a great game. It wasn't a shootout or anything. Just a good defensive battle. San Diego State and Ohio, exact same way. Then we get into UMass, New Mexico State. Incredibly boring first three quarters, and then you kick into the fourth quarter. What do y'all think about that game?
It's prime Week 0 football. 90% of it, you just don't really like it, and you're only really watching it because it's the only kind of college football on, and then, just there's that little moment where it actually starts being a bit entertaining, and it's a joy to watch. I really liked this game in that last quarter because of it seemed like both teams kind of came alive, and it separated it from the rest of the games that we saw, and it was just it's one of those things where you would really never watch either of these teams on a normal college football Saturday, but because of Week 0, you do, and you kind of get this hidden gem of a game that you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
When you look at that last quarter, and UMass and New Mexico State both scored more than their point totals in the first three quarters. I believe UMass had 28, New Mexico State with 20, ended up 41-30. Mm-hmm. It felt like they went to overdrive at the end of the game. They conserved energy maybe during the beginning. It was very slow-paced. So it was a great end to a game, though, very enjoyable. Vandy and Hawaii
very good.
Also ended very good. Hawaii looked rough for the first part of it. I was expecting it to be a blowout like it was last year, but they came to play towards the end. A bad pick at the end of the game. I know me and Chris were watching that play happen. What was your opinion on that?
I wanted Hawaii to win that game because it's my first time watching a Hawaii football game, and just see them stick with an SEC team. I was like, okay. They got something going here. They threw that pick on the goal line, so it's over with.
Not just any SEC team, but currently the best team in the SEC, the best record right now, 1-0, 100%. And then we had USC San Jose State. USC's defense does not look great. We've come to expect that from the Pac-12, it feels like, after every Pac-12 after dark game. I'll let Riley get into the Pac-12 and USC.
I will say with USC, the defense not looking too good. I don't have USC currently winning the Pac-12 this season. I will say for the Pac-12, this will be its last official season. Yeah. The teams this year are surprisingly better than normal, I feel like. You have Washington up there, you have Oregon up there with Bo Nix, Utah, and then you guys still have USC, but they got to get their defense together if they want to win this conference.
Yeah, that was especially a game where if you're USC and you're ranked number 6 in the country, you really shouldn't be giving up 4 scores to a San Jose State out of the Mountain West. Obviously their offense with Caleb Williams did amazing things, and they put up a lot of great plays. I wish I could have seen those plays, but unfortunately the game was broadcast on Pac-12 Network, which is probably the reason why the whole conference is folding. But overall, a good game, but it definitely some concerns on the defensive side of the ball, especially when they go on to play some bigger programs later in the year.
We also had Louisiana Tech, FIU. Not much was expected out of the game. Not much was really seen out of the game. Clemson did play Louisiana Tech last year, so we had a taste of what they could do last year. This year it looks a lot different, though. They look a lot worse than they were last year, considerably worse. But, we're mentioning the Pac-12. You think it's going to be the last official season. I think they'll somehow get it back together. They're not going to, obviously, it's going to end up like Oregon State, Washington State will probably stay. They'll grab some Mount West teams, teams like that, like a Boise State, a team that is historically a pretty good football team, but hasn't had recent success, and maybe moving into a Power 5 conference, considering or believing they'll still be called a Power 5 conference. I think it'll end up being a merger between those two conferences. Possibly, I haven't heard anything about that. That's just my prediction on it. Maybe bring a couple MAC teams in there. It wouldn't shock me. And just American League teams, just teams that have history of being good, but aren't at that upper echelon of college football yet. And this crumbling Pac-12 could end up coming back together, not as a super conference, obviously, but help bring these smaller teams into the upper echelon, I believe.
I feel like right now they just need to get the teams into the conference, regardless of how big they are, just to salvage the conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, at least my concern is that, Oregon State, Washington State, they're very big programs. They're very talented programs, and I think from their viewpoint, especially with how much money plays into the factoring of TV deals and where these schools are going conference-wise, I think it's very likely that they could probably just do what every other team is doing, go to the Big 10, Big 12, because it might not be as financially feasible for them to take up a bunch of Group of 5 teams, which would suck. I think that even the Pac-12, while it has its haters, is an exciting conference to have in college football. But I think I'm worried that what they'll see is kind of the writing on the wall, that if they want to get the big money, they got to go to one of the super conferences that we're seeing formed.
And you mentioned, obviously this is a college football focus, but talking about Oregon State, they're a very successful athletic department. Mm-hmm. They have had great baseball teams. They won 3 College World Series.
Yeah.
One in 2018. This is a really good athletic department that it's really sad to see them kind of falling in the wayside with all these teams leaving, because I'm a fan of what Oregon State is. I feel like they're not the most flashy team. Their fans aren't the most flashy. They seem very, very easy to get along with, these Washington State and Oregon State. And it's sad to see teams like that just with loyal fan bases kind of fall because other teams are going for money, which I understand.
Yeah.
You have to make money.
Yeah.
But it sucks to see that. Then there's that potential ACC expansion. It's been rumored. It's, I believe, SMU, SMU, Cal, thank you, and Stanford. And I'm not a fan of that. I think it could be successful, but making a Southeastern team, obviously it's not the Southeastern Conference, but a lot of these teams are located in the Southeast United States or just the Eastern United States.
If it all goes through, they just got to change the name. All Coast Conference, I think it'll be better.
Yeah, but if you're expanding the ACC to teams in California, that doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
I think what I'm envisioning is more of FSU and Clemson knowing that they can get the money and that these smaller programs can't. So I could very much see them just jumping ship instead of trying to beef up the ACC. Maybe go somewhere else like an SEC or maybe a Big 10. Just go where there's going to be a lot of money and competition, in that you will be able to compete. Which schools like Louisville or Virginia don't really have that same thing, at least when it comes to football.
Especially with teams like Louisville, you mentioned, recently, they haven't been the ACC for only about, 10 years? Mm-hmm. They're Big East teams. So it's just interesting to see. We saw, Big East teams move, 2013, 2012, same with, Missouri and Texas A&M going to the SEC. But now we're seeing it in a much wider scale. We're seeing, the 2 biggest teams in the Big 12 go SEC. We're seeing the biggest teams in the Pac-12 go Big 10. Mm-hmm. And that's not something I ever thought I'd see.
Yeah.
And then it feels like with NIL and the transfer portal and all this just bulking up in college football and just college in general, it has caused all these teams to realize, oh, we're not going to make enough money to keep funding what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So we need to go somewhere that have better media rights, better deals.
I think with Clemson, it's... I don't think we necessarily want to leave the ACC, but we have to if we want to keep being one of the premier college football programs in the country. Because with NIL, if we stay in the ACC, everyone else, such as teams going from the Big 12 to the SEC, they're getting more media rights. They're being shown more. Players are going to want to go there because there's more NIL money and there's a bigger audience.
And to be fair, teams like that, though, it's Texas and Oklahoma. They are 2 of the top 10 programs in all of the world. 2 of the big college football programs in the world. Texas is arguably the biggest just college program, the most notable, realizable, recognizable, similar to an Alabama. They're at that level, and things like Longhorn Network coming about, they made so much money off of that it feels like the SEC it's not a downgrade to them. They're going to make more money, but it feels like they didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's smart of them to do that, and I respect them for making a good choice for themselves. But it did kick off all of this happening. I just hope that all these conferences can kind of at least stay afloat. Power 5 sounds much better than Power 4.
It's sad. I know I hated on the Pac-12 a lot last season, and I didn't fully think this is what college football would come to. And I think eventually it might come to just 2 mega conferences. But it's sad. It's from my point of view, I grew up being a big college football program, and this It's like the childhood's going away super soon.
Yeah.
It's like all the conferences just like Pac-12. I still think they're going to disappear sometime.
We'll see.
Yeah,
It's a we'll see
It's
situation.
a lot of
Yeah.
speculation.
So let's throw in our predictions for college football this year, though. Playoff predictions. We can just go down the road. Nash, you can begin.
Okay. Well, obviously, I really do believe in this Clemson team. I think as much as I hate to say it, I think it's going to be a very tough season for us, and especially with the first year new coordinator and a new quarterback starting. I really see our ceiling around that 11-1 maybe. I could see us kind of getting just on the cusp of a playoff. I'm seeing Clemson as maybe a 5 or 6. But when it comes to the top programs, I still think Georgia's going to be fantastic. I don't see them having some sort of crisis that causes them to miss out. I'm very big on Michigan. I think Michigan is a solid enough team. Well, they're very good, but I don't think they're good enough to compete in the playoff. But they're one of those teams that always gets in the playoff because when they do play, they play well. And then I would also say, obviously, Ohio State. They've probably been having the most hype I've seen, and it's a bit, all these choices stereotypical, but things I truly believe in.
Yeah.
And I do really like Alabama coming in as a 4 spot, just because it's Nick Saban. He's the best coach in college football history. They have a new quarterback, and I think it's always good to bet on Nick Saban. So those are my top 4.
In my top 4, around the same. I mean, Georgia obviously is up there. I think they arguably have one of the easier schedules in college football, besides them playing Tennessee at Neyland Stadium. And then Michigan has an easy schedule all the way until their last 4 games, where it has Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State. So they're obviously a back-heavy schedule, which we'll see how that goes towards the end of the season if they're good enough to get the playoff. And I want to say Clemson, and I want to say Bama, but both of those, I still have a question mark on us and Alabama. I know Alabama's quarterback situation, it's been going through the summer. Like, we're not entirely sure who's starting yet, so that's why I'm unsure. And then I think we're just a big question mark until we play Duke, see how we face against a decent team coming into the season.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, I feel like is likely everyone's number 1 pick. They're back-to-back champions. I think Kirby Smart's currently the best coach in college football, just like what he's doing right now. I think Saban and Kirby, I think, are 1A, 1B kind of right now. And obviously Kirby was under Saban. He got that Saban gene, I guess. But I'm really high on Georgia, of course. Michigan, I'm not as high on as I feel like y'all are. I'm higher on Ohio State than Michigan this year. Yeah. I think Michigan's good, but I think Ohio State's always good, and it's hard to count them out ever because I think Ryan Day is a fantastic coach. He got a great team from Urban Meyer, but he's done well recruiting. Marvin Harrison Jr. to me is probably the best player in college football. Him and like Brock Bowers, just those kind of guys. I feel like those are 2 huge playmakers. Yeah, exactly, game changers. And then I'd say my number 3, I'm really high on LSU this year. A lot of people think they could bust, but I think they're going to boom. Jaden Daniels is great. Brian Kelly is another guy who's like arguably the best coach in college football. He won at Notre Dame, which you don't really see that often. Except for if you go way back to Rudy and Joe Montana.
Yeah.
But Brian Kelly, I feel like he does a lot of different things, so I'm huge on him. And then I'd say probably USC. I think Southern Cal. I think Lincoln Riley's another guy, great coach. I think Clemson's just going to miss out.
Yeah.
I think our team's great. I'm really high on this team, and I wouldn't be shocked if we do make it.
Yeah.
And I think Garrett Riley's the best offensive coordinator in football. So we'll see how that happens. Chris?
Well, of course, like everybody else said, Georgia, of course, could look at the schedule and look at the team that they have. Every year they proceed to exceed expectations from last season. It's like, how can they get better? And they find a way to get better. And next, I'm gonna have Bama, of course, because you can't count Nick Saban out. You can't count him out. Even with quarterback struggles and deciding who the quarterback's gonna be, you still can't count him out because even though they might not be great in the quarterback position, they still they arguably wide receiver you, D-line you, and you just
the great everywhere else.
Yeah.
They're at that Ohio State level, I feel like. They're unsure about quarterback right now, but they're going to be fine.
Yeah, and next, of course, Ohio State. I mean, great team, great coach, great defense, great wide receivers, just like Bama. And then last, I want to put Clemson there, but I feel like we're just going to miss it this year. I think we got a great team, but I think we're just going to miss it. So with that last pick, I'm probably gonna go with Michigan.
That's a fair pick too. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State. That could end up being one of those whoever wins that game slips in. That's why it's so hard for me to put them both in. Obviously they both made it last year.
Yeah.
But we saw how that turned out. Neither of them made the championship. We ended up with TCU, Georgia in a blowout. But I feel like there could be another team coming out of nowhere like a TCU. I'm just not sure who that is yet. Awards. We'll just go down real quick. Heisman, Nash.
I mean, I've got a few options. Obviously Caleb Williams is the stereotypical pick, but I feel I don't want to be stereotypical. I'm going to go a little bit out there. I do kind of like Quinn Ewers out of Texas just because he was very good last season and they did compete until they got injured. And I think if he can stay healthy and produce how he was producing, especially with that Texas, if they can make a statement with him as quarterback, I think there's a very good narrative there, a very good probable push that he could be Heisman. So.
Right now, I'm very high on Jordan Travis, even though I'm not the biggest Florida State fan. And I think they're way too overhyped going into the season. But Jordan Travis, I feel like him as a player, he's for real. I don't know about the rest of the team, but I'm high on him. And then also Bo Nix. Bo time.
So Bo Nix for me, he's my dark horse. I've been high on Bo Nix since he was at Auburn, and clearly I've been wrong. But he revitalized his career at Oregon. He's done fantastic there. So he's my dark horse, but I think my number one guy is Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's the best player in college football. They don't have that quarterback yet. I don't even know if Ryan Day's named a starter. I know they've gone back and forth in their meetings. So I feel like with that even being a problem, Harrison he's going to remain how he was as the top guy in football, and he's going to be better. He's getting older. He's getting better. That always seems to happen. So he's my guy.
I personally could see Caleb Williams winning again, or like you said, Marvin Harrison. I'm very high on them this season.
Don't sleep on Brock Bowers, though.
Yeah, I was going to say he's probably 3.
Let's move on to the NFL predictions. So we'll start with the NFC playoffs. What do you expect to see in the NFC? Anything crazy?
Honestly, it's one of those things where I can't make any crazy predictions. I think we'll see similar to what we saw last year, especially now with the modern NFL having a 7-team playoff. I think we're going to see, a few teams get into 6 and 7. But if I'm being completely honest, I am pretty wide open on the NFC. I think the AFC is very top heavy, but I think the NFC is a bit different where it could really be a multitude of teams. If I had to pick one, I'd probably just pick the Eagles again just because of how complete that team is. But outside of them, I really don't have a team that I could say.
At least for the NFC, I'm kind of about the same. I think the NFC Championship is going to be the same as it was last year with the Eagles and my 49ers. And I'm hoping that the 49ers can make the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, our local
as long as
Cowboys
quarterback
fan.
position stays healthy.
Local Cowboys fan, claiming to be a Niners fan. He's been doing it all year for some
Been
reason.
doing it since last year.
I mean, Eagles, Niners are obviously 1 and 2. I'm thinking NFC North could have some impact. I'm big on the Vikings. I think the Vikings are really good. I'm a huge Kirk Cousins fan. I feel like he is such an underrated player, and he does so much. The NFC South has no chance. As an NFC South fan, just realistically thinking about it, like.
The only team I can see is probably the Saints.
Yeah. I think Derek Carr's very good. So, it'll be all right. But I'm thinking those 3 teams, I think the Vikings could end up in the Super Bowl. I could see that realistically. I think they have a really good team this year. I mean, Alexander Madison now going into that running back 1. I feel like they could have kept Dalvin Cook, and it would have been, I don't know if it'll be better because I haven't seen Madison in the receiver or the running back 1 role, but Justin Jefferson is arguably the best player in football with the Mahomes and the Kelce's. So we'll see.
I don't want to see the Vikings in the Super Bowl personally, but for the NFC, personally, this is how I feel. If your team is not the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Vikings, or maybe the Giants, I got bad news for you. Your team won't be doing much. I got bad news for you. But yeah, I can see the NFC Championship being the Eagles and the 49ers again, with the 49ers this time winning the game and going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'll win the Super Bowl, but I can see them at least making it out the NFC.
Then we'll go to AFC playoff picture, and we'll go to Super Bowl too. Just since we already talked about the NFC, we'll go back down the row so you can go.
So AFC, honestly, the Chiefs again. I'm just gonna go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean AFC, it's what, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals. I'm thinking, it's crazy. I don't know why I'm feeling this. I'm thinking Bengals, Vikings. Bengals won it, and in a showdown, like an offensive showdown. I think that'll be a fun one to watch. So they'll have a good showdown there.
I'm thinking AFC wise. I think the Jags might have a good shot at winning the AFC this year. You know, I like Trevor Lawrence going in this season, and I'm saying that from a completely biased standpoint as a Clemson fan.
Honestly, it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I mean, I think they're my go-to. If I had to choose someone else, I think that if the Chiefs don't get it done, I think the Bills do. I think it's been a strong Bills team for the past few years, and I think they've always just been like just so close to getting on that final step that they haven't been able to do. But if the Chiefs don't do it, I think the Bills will.
Yeah, the Bills definitely have the most loaded roster, I feel like. Award predictions, MVP. Does anyone have like a dark horse? Or are we thinking it's like Mahomes or Allen pretty much?
I'm leaning basically pretty straightforward. Mahomes, Allen. I'm thinking it's going to be one of those big quarterbacks that we've seen play I don't think there's going to be anyone who's going to and I don't think there's going to be any position player that sets himself apart or any QB that we've seen in previous years that hasn't been so great. I think it'll be your pretty standard, typical, what you see in the preseason now is probably most of those guys are probably going to be by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I got Mahomes winning MVP too.
Yeah, I think Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers are always like the big three.
Standard.
But I think Trevor Lawrence will make a push at it. I don't think he'll get it, but I think he'll make a good push. I could see Justin Fields having some improvement this year, DJ Moore. So those are some guys I'd look out for. I'm big on Justin Fields. I think he has a good arm for a guy who he likes to run the ball a lot. And Lamar Jackson, of course, won it, 2019? And I could see him coming back to that form and winning it again.
Yeah, pick up on Lamar. He has the weapons now, and the new offensive coordinator. I think he can be a candidate this year, along with Hurts again and Mahomes, of course.
Yep,
those are my top three.
Slipped my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, talk about the new offensive coordinator. They got him from Georgia.
Yeah.
And obviously we saw what Georgia could do. So, draft predictions. I feel like we've all talked about this, but Cardinals are just the team they have right now. I can't see the quarterback position working out right now.
What can that franchise do to just get better? It's like they need everything.
They do.
They need everything.
And I think, they have a new coach coming in, correct?
Yeah, I think they did fire.
Okay, yeah. So they have a new coach coming in. I think that could help them. Josh Dobbs is a guy, I like Josh Dobbs a lot. I'm high on Josh Dobbs. And I've been high on him since he was at Tennessee, though. And every time he gets to play, he proves himself. And I think he's going to get the start for this team for at least the first 4 weeks while Kyler's out. So I'm hoping to see Josh Dobbs do big things. But
yeah, no, I'm kind of seeing that as the team in football to just say, they're going to win 3-4 games. No one's going to be surprised, and they're going to be a first overall pick. That's how I see it as it stands.
Thinking Caleb Williams to the Cardinals.
you can't blame him going for him. The FIBA World Cup. I've been watching this a little bit. I don't know how much y'all have really kept up with it. My expectations, I feel like there's 3 big teams in this that I'm pretty high on. France is no longer in it. They did not look great. Wembanyama didn't play. Gobert played, but he can't carry the whole load. It's hard to do that, especially in FIBA. So United States, obviously, it's obviously not the superstars you're used to watching, but this team is really good together. They play well. Anthony Edwards. Austin Reeves has been fantastic in the FIBA World Cup. Even Greece has looked really good. Thanasis Antetokounmpo, I saw him he dunked on Walker Kessler the other day, and then Walker Kessler dunked on someone else. He came back right after. It was pretty fun to watch that play. But Greece is good. But I think the big 3 are United States, Spain, and Slovenia. Luka Doncic has been fantastic with that squad, and it's so hard to see them losing.
Yeah, obviously the U.S. heavy favorites, and that's my personal choice. And then if I had to choose someone outside of that, it would be Spain or Slovenia, where it's just one of those countries that's the same team's been playing forever, and then they have a few superstars from the NBA. So honestly, I think it's one of those 3. I don't imagine that anyone else. I don't those are the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with all of you guys.
Yeah. And you can't count Spain out. They were ranked number 1 going into this. I think they have really good coaching. But if you look at the U.S.'s coaching, you have Steve Kerr, and you have all of these NBA coaches. Can't even remember off the top of my head now. But all of these head coaches in the NBA mixing together, it's really hard to lose when you have the best coaches in the world coming together and coaching one team, especially because it's a young team. It's a young U.S. team, and they're very good. So it's hard to see America losing. But if they do lose, I think Slovenia will take it. Soccer. We've had soccer. We have Premier League came back. Inter Miami's looked fantastic with Messi. We'll start with the Premier League. I know y'all's teams have been playing. I haven't kept up with Arsenal very much, but
Yeah, Darwin Nunez masterclass this past Sunday against Newcastle. When the game was going on in Newcastle, Trent made that dumb turnover that he made. I was like, yeah, we're gonna lose to Newcastle. Then Darwin came down and scored the goal, so I was like, okay, I'm satisfied with a draw against Newcastle. That's fine with me. Then he came down and scored another one, and I was like, please don't call this offsides. And he scored it, and they counted it. Happy as I ever been to be a fan, and I'm proud to been able to watch that moment.
yeah, Liverpool has been very good. From what I've seen of them, they are very good. Darwin Nunez coming off the bench is ridiculous.
Crazy.
He's a world-class player.
Yeah.
You know, you see a lot of teams, they don't have world-class players, but Liverpool has a guy like Nunez coming off the bench, and they've been fantastic.
Yeah.
Nash?
Honestly, you know, I'm not as well versed in this, but you know, there's been, from my understanding, you know, you have your almost like your blue bloods. You know, you have your Man Cities and your Arsenals and your Liverpools that'll compete very well, and then you have some teams lower down, and you know, your Chelseas that are full of world-class players but just can't, you know, compete to the same level. So, and obviously, it's only the max amount of games a single team has played is 3. So I still think it's, you know,
It's a small sample size.
it's a small sample size, but from what I have seen, it's been pretty exciting. And, you know, whole season ahead, there's a lot can happen.
We're still so early in the season, but in my head, who's stopping Man City?
Yeah, I feel like they have the greatest soccer coach of all time. They have the best player in the world right now. You know, they won the Premier League last year. They triple crowned at UCL Premier League. They won in Ted Lasso. And you know, it's hard to see Pep Guardiola lose to anyone because he's the best coach you've ever seen in soccer. Yeah. I'm not the most well versed on soccer, but if anyone's like, name one coach, I'm like Pep. That's the only one I can name because he's been so great. He was at Barcelona with Messi, I believe. He played with him, did he not?
I believe he did. I'm not sure.
A very short amount of time, I believe they played together. So it's so hard to see Man City losing. Haaland is by far the best player in the world. He'll end up going down as one of the best players ever. He's a machine. Mm-hmm. He's young. He's 20, 21, 6, 5. He's ridiculously tall. Then he goes home and plays Minecraft after he plays a game. He's like a college kid playing at the highest level in the world. It's crazy to see something like that. Mm-hmm. So then we have Messi on Miami. They've been great. Ever since Messi's been there, they don't lose. They've won
the worst team.
They've won every tournament. And now with the MLS starting back up, they resume their season. Miami's not going to be in the last anymore. They're gonna start building up. They won their first game back, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
So they're gonna build up.
Especially, you know, going into it, you hear and see a lot of things because, you know, this very big international name on this MLS team. So you see a lot of it on social media. But they've actually been succeeding. They won the Leagues Cup a little bit ago, and they're competing in the Nations Cup. This is a team that, like, it's not just a retired player who's just a big name that people want to watch on TV because it's Messi. It's a team that's actually playing very, very well with a player who still seems to be at least at the top of his game or close to it.
And especially coming off that World Cup. I mean, you win a World Cup, you're one of the top players in the world. And Messi, he also got a lot of his buddies from Barcelona to come over and play with him, which was unreal to see. I didn't expect guys like Sergio Busquets to come over and just guys like that who are also still, they're getting older, obviously, but they're still really good players. And Messi being able to reassemble the Avengers that he had at Barcelona and continue the success over in the MLS, they're just taking over the world. It's a world takeover for this team.
And before Messi came to the MLS, I'm thinking maybe the MLS can compete with Europe. If you look at Messi's highlights from his first 3 games, you can obviously see there's a humongous gap between European football and MLS.
I still feel like Messi himself could compete in Europe, though.
Oh, yes.
You throw Messi in the Premier League, you throw him on the best team, he'll start because he's just that good. I mean, he'll be the left wing on Man City, and he'll play well, and he'll score, 20 goals in a season or whatever. Obviously, the ones Haaland's not scoring, but he'll still go. He'll be great.
Yeah.
Let's get into overtime, Chris.
So it was while there was a lot of stuff going on this summer for team sports. It was a big summer for combat sports. obviously I wasn't very happy with Errol Spence getting beat down like that by Terrence Crawford. It wasn't the best experience watching it live, but you know, my boy will be back, man down, strap season, we'll be back. And then with the UFC, Aljamain Sterling got knocked out. I don't know what he was doing. Like, you got the takedown stuff. Why would you go lunge in and then you know he's a counter puncher and you just went straight in and lunged in? Like, props to Sugar Sean, but why would you do that?
Riley?
So getting into, so I'm a new fan of soccer. I'm getting more into it as the days go by. And this U.S. men's national team is something to get excited about. So 2026, the World Cup comes to North America. And I think our men's national team might have a shot at it. We just got Valérien Balogun switched over from England to the United States. A great pickup on striker. And overall, we played in the CONCACAF Nations League, or Nations Cup, and we dominated. We absolutely embarrassed Mexico and destroyed Canada. And I think we're a force in this upcoming World Cup.
And then kind of switching gears back to college football, I recently watched the Johnny Manziel documentary, which is a bit informative, but it's also just a very good and well-made documentary. It really kind of encapsulates that short time in college football where this one kid was just running the whole sport and this big personality, and you kind of see this rise and fall of him as a player and a person and this like slight redemption. So that's definitely a watch if you're a college football fan or just a fan of good documentaries in general.
Yeah, so I had this really cool opportunity over the summer to work for the Lexington County Blowfish. Mm-hmm. It's a collegiate woodbat summer league in the Coastal Plain League. They won the championship with the Coastal Plain League. They will be sending me a ring, or so I've been told. So I'm waiting on that. Just a really cool experience. I got to do a lot of stuff. Got to be the hot dog man, the first ever hot dog man for the team, and I got to connect with fans. I got to do commentary, which is something that's been a great time for me. It was a really cool time though. Met a lot of really good guys, a lot of really good athletes, really good Division I college athletes. Cooper Blauser here at Clemson, Ethan Petrie at University of South Carolina, one of the best players in college baseball. Ty Jackson at Florida A&M, who got to play in the Swingman Classic, the first HBCU game at All-Star Weekend. So just a lot of guys who I could see going really far in their career. So it was a really cool opportunity. I just wanted to talk about that real quick because I had a great summer with that, and I just thought that was a cool opportunity to have. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think we're good. Thank you for watching. We will likely see you next week, I believe. So we'll be back then. Thank you for watching.